Ms. Karner, one of the items you were asked to look at was, as described in your report, 1 bullet jacket fragment and 4 lead fragments, correct?
Yes.
Were you informed at some point that there was a discrepancy between what you were examining and what had been documented by the medical examiner in terms of the number of bullet fragments?
I was, yes.
Were you asked to see if maybe the ATF had lost certain portions of the evidence?
No, I was not.
Right. Do you think, and was it your understanding that there were originally 7 bullet fragments, but you ended up with 4?
I was alerted that there was potentially 7 fragments from the medical examiner in a photo just a few months ago.
Okay. You're clear, though, that when you got the evidence, it was in a sealed condition, correct?
It was, yes.
And when you opened, what was it, an envelope?
A small individual manila envelope, yes.
And did you take the contents of the envelope containing the bullet and take photographs of it?
I did, yes.
Okay. Could you display page 41 of 47 of that exhibit? I'm sorry, page 14. And tell us what's depicted here.
Yes, this is a picture of the as-received condition of Exhibit 6 in its entirety. That's the top picture. So you'll see Exhibit 6A all the way through 6E in descending order. And then the bottom 2 photos on the left is the Exhibit 6A bullet jacket fragment, and that is the view of the exterior. And then the photograph on the right is the Exhibit 6A bullet jacket fragment, and that's the view of the interior of it.
Okay. Now, after you documented what the bullet and the fragments look like, did you do certain procedures on the bullet, the larger bullet fragment?
I did, yes.
And what did you do?
I cleaned the bullet jacket fragment, and I also peeled the petals back. If you think of a banana and peeling the skin away from the interior, it's almost like doing that. As you can see from the photo, the petals have been crumpled in on themselves. So in order for me to see the land and groove impressions, which holds those individual characteristics needed for a comparison, I have to do some maneuvering of those petals.
And how do you do that? Do you use an instrument to peel back the portions that you want to look at?
I use pliers.
Okay. And after you did that procedure, did you then photograph the larger bullet fragment itself?
I did, yes.
Were the smaller fragments essentially not of any value to you in terms of doing comparisons?
They were deemed unsuitable, which means there are no microscopic marks of value for comparison.
Okay, but the larger fragment, after you did the process you just explained, you then photographed it again, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Could you display the next page of this exhibit, please? Tell us what we see here.
This is 2 pictures of that 6A bullet jacket fragment after the examination preparation. So the top photo is going to be the interior of 6A, and then the bottom photo is the exterior of 6A.
Now, after you took these photographs, did you proceed to do something to determine whether you had either class, individual, or subclass characteristics?
Yes.
Tell the court what that means.
To start, when I do my initial examination of a bullet jacket fragment like this, I'm going to look at its class characteristics. Class characteristics are the least restrictive set of characteristics I use in my comparison process. And these are design features that are given to a large group of items that characterize them together. So for a bullet, you could think of the diameter of the bullet, the number of landing grooves, the direction of twist, and the type of rifling. So I would go through and look at the class characteristics of this bullet jacket fragment, which was 6 right conventional rifling. Then I'd move on to look at any subclass characteristics. And subclass characteristics are more restricted than class, but less than individual. And they are design features that can be put on an object during the manufacturing process, which is consistent among items that are made by a tool that's in a specific state of wear. So what I mean by that is it's going to be a subset of a larger group, which is why it's not used for for identification or comparison purposes for the basis of a conclusion. But when you think of something that's made through a mold process, when that mold comes together, it creates a seam line, and that seam line is going to be represented on all the items that it makes. So that's why you can't use it for the identification process, because it's going to be on a lot of items, which is why it's a subset of the group. Then I move on and looking at the individual characteristics. And these are imperfections and irregularities that arise from the manufacturing process. And then there's also individual characteristics can arise from wear, use, and abuse of a tool. And these individual characteristics is what is going to be distinct to that tool, and that's why they're used for the identification process. So again, I did an examination of its class characteristics, looked for any subclass characteristics, and then looked to see if there was individual characteristics in the land and groove impressions sufficient enough of marks and values to do a comparison process.
Now, once you have the class characteristics of a bullet, can you narrow the range of firearms that could have fired it just based on class characteristics?
You can, yes.
And is caliber a class characteristic or an individual or a subclass characteristic?
It's going to be a class characteristic because a lot of firearms will have the same class, or excuse me, the same caliber.
Did you measure the diameter of the bullet?
I did, yes.
And did you end up with a range where it could have been a certain range of length or diameter?
I did, yes.
And what was your reading?
Can I refer to my notes, please?
Yes, please.
The range of the diameter for the 6A bullet jacket fragment was .286 to .301 inches.
Okay, what page are you looking at?
It's page 13.
Okay. Now, so this is your documentation of the diameter measurement. And then on the right there, LIMP, that's measurement of the land width,
The
correct?
land impression width, yes.
And these are all general characteristics, or class characteristics, right?
Correct.
Okay. Now, once you had that this, and also that it was, you said, what's called the rifling was to the right, correct?
The direction of twist, yes.
Yeah, the lingo is 6 to the right, meaning,
6 right, yes.
and that's a class characteristic.
Correct.
So once you had the diameter of the base of the bullet, and did you have some difficulty because of the damage to the bullet in exactly measuring it?
The reason I provided a range was because of the damage and deformity to the base. So at times it wasn't a perfect circle, so it was important to me to give a range of what those diameter measurements were.
Once you have the diameter and the rifling characteristics and the land and groove measurements, can you then plug those measurements into a database and to narrow down the class of weapons from which this bullet could have been fired?
The general rifling characteristics search will use those class characteristics and will generate a list of possible firearms that could have fired the bullet. But that list is not all-inclusive, it is just used as an investigative tool.
Sure. Could you go to page 47, please? Could you tell us what we're looking at here?
This is the results of that general rifling characteristic, or the GRC search.
All right, and what did you determine in terms of, just based on the class characteristics, what weapons could have fired the 6A bullet?
There were several different .30 caliber class firearms that could have fired the bullet.
And they're listed here, correct?
Correct.
Could you tell us what the initials PI and RI and PR mean in the far right-hand column?
They refer to different types of firearms, so rifles, revolvers, machine guns, any type of firearm.
And what are the pistol ones? How is that designated? PI or,
Correct.
and what is RB?
Bolt action?
Bolt action. So based on the class characteristics, any of these weapons could have fired that bullet.
They could have possibly fired the bullet jacket fragment, yes.